have permission.
They have permission, but the problem is we have like 25 members right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? At this time, will all non-council staff, I repeat, all non-council staff, make your way up to the balcony, please? All cell phones and electronic devices, set that to vibration now. Again, all cell phones and electronic devices, please set them to vibration now.
Okay, we're gonna.
Good afternoon and welcome to the stated meeting of November 26, 2019. I am Majority Leader Lori Cumbo. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Adams.
Present.
Ampry Samuel. Ayala.
Present.
Barron.
Present.
Borelli. Brannan.
Here.
Cabrera.
Here.
Chin.
Here.
Cohen. Constantinides. Cornegie.
Aquí.
Deutsch. Diaz. Drum.
Here.
Espinal. Eugene. Gibson. Jonai.
Present.
Gordenchik. Holden.
Here.
Kalos. Koo.
Present.
Kozowitz. Lantzman. Lander. Levin. Levine.
Here.
Lewis. Mizell. Menchaca.
Presente.
Miller. Moya. Perkins. Powers.
Here.
Reynoso. Richards. Rivera. Rodriguez. Rose.
Present.
Thank you.
Sorry. Sorry.
Rosenthal. Salamanca. Torres. Traeger.
Here.
Ulrich. Vallone.
Here.
Van Bramer.
Here.
Yeager. Matteo. Cumbo.
Present.
Speaker Johnson.
Thank you. We will now have today's invocation, which will be delivered by Reverend Thomas John Venkus, the President of the Board of Directors of the New York Disaster Interfaith Services and the Coordination of Disaster Recovery Ministries, located on West 43rd Street in Manhattan. Please rise.
Friends, in whatever manner we may worship, and by whatever name or understanding we may have of our Creator, let us bow our heads in a moment of prayer and thanksgiving. Holy and blessed God, let our first words and thoughts be ones of thanksgiving. We thank you for the gift of life itself. We thank you for your many and abundant blessings, for the measure of health we enjoy, for family and friendship, for love of country and community, and the call to service we have heard and responded to. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. And as always, we bless and thank you for loving us, all people, from your boundless and gracious nature. This day, we pray for those who lead our city, for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. We ask that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the many interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them this day and for the work they will take on in the coming days and months. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around this place we call home, New York. It is in your blessed name we pray. Amen and amen.
Thank you. So appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful and timely prayer. I'd now like to ask Councilmember Powers to spread the invocation on the record.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank you to Reverend Thomas John Venkis for being here today, and I would like to have a motion to spread the invocation in full for the record. Thank you to Reverend Thomas John Venkis today for being here and doing work in my district and throughout the city. He is a clergy member of the New York Conference of the United Methodist Church, currently serving as the Director of Mission and Disaster Response and as the President of the New York DIS Board of Directors. He has served in both short and long-term mission capacities, including 3 years in Haiti, coordinating the United Methodist earthquake recovery effort and the Superstorm Sandy recovery for the New York Conference. He has been serving as a consultant to the United Methodist Church of Puerto Rico for Hurricane Maria, and will be traveling to the Bahamas in a few weeks' time. I think we all can say at this particular moment in time as we look forward to Thanksgiving that the work that he is doing on behalf of this city, our country, and for all those around the world is extremely important. We are very, very thankful for the work that they are doing here. I should mention that he's also married, has 2 sons and daughters-in-law, and also 4 wonderful grandchildren. So I want to welcome him here today. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and you should always stop by my district office down the block from you anytime we can. You're in the neighborhood, but I want to welcome you here today, and again, spread the invocation for the record today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Powers. And now we will have the adoption of minutes by Councilmember Lander.
I move that the minutes of the stated meeting of October 17th, 2019 be adopted as printed.
Thank you, Councilmember Lander. We will now have messages and papers from the mayor.
None.
Communication from city, county, and borough offices.
None.
Petitions and communications.
None.
Land use call-ups.
M195.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, I'm asking for a roll call vote on today's land use call-up calendar. Again, a reminder, this is just on the land use calendar.
Ampry Samuel.
I request unanimous consent to vote on all items on the general order calendar, as well as all land use items and resolutions.
Permission granted.
Thank you, and with that, I vote aye, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Cohen.
I vote aye, and with permission, I'd like to vote on all items on the general orders calendar.
Permission granted.
I vote aye. Thank you.
Richards.
Second. Skip me.
Adams.
I vote aye.
Ayala.
Aye.
Barron.
I vote aye, and with unanimous consent, I would ask for permission to vote on all land use call-ups coupled with the accompanying resolutions and all items on the general order calendar.
Give us one moment.
Madam Majority Leader, I would say I think it's fine for Councilmember Barron to be excused. She has an important meeting she needs to be at, but I would also say that we have a stated meeting today, and members need to stay and vote and be here for the duration of the meeting. It is important that we maintain quorum, and it is important that people block off time in their calendars to be here for the stated meeting. Councilmember Barron, I know, is dealing with a timely and important issue that the council has to take up in the coming days, and it is appropriate for her to leave, but we really need members to stay at this meeting today.
Permission granted.
I vote aye, and I want to thank you for the consideration. And as everybody probably has noticed, I always stay to the end. So I thank you so much for that consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Borelli. Brennan.
Aye.
Cabrera.
Aye.
Chin.
Aye.
Konstantinidis. Cornegie. Deutsch. Diaz. Drum.
Aye.
Espinal. Eugene. Gibson. Jonai.
Aye.
Gordenchik. Holden.
Aye.
Kalos. Koo.
Aye.
Kozlowitz. Lanceman. Lander. Levin. Levine.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Mizell. Menchaca.
Aye.
Miller. Moya.
I vote aye.
Perkins. Powers.
Aye.
Reynoso. Richards.
Aye.
Rivera.
Aye.
Rodriguez. Rose.
Aye.
Rosenthal. Salamanca. Torres. Traeger.
Aye.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Vallone.
Aye.
Van Bramer.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Madio. Cumbo.
I vote aye.
Speaker Johnson.
You got one more.
Land use call-ups, Councilmember Kalos.
Aye.
Thank you. Today's land use call-ups are adopted by a vote of 37 in the affirmative and 0 negative. We will now have communication from Speaker Cory Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. I want to thank everyone for being here today at this very important stated meeting. Thank you. I want to begin by acknowledging the recent mass shootings we have had in our country this month. These horrific tragedies took the lives of 3 students in Santa Clarita, California, 4 people in Fresno, California, and 3 people outside of a Walmart in Duncan, Oklahoma. My heart is with the families of each and every victim. This senseless violence has got to stop, and serious gun law reform must be passed now. Thursday, November 28th marks Albanian Independence Day, and we are just getting word about a devastating 6.4 magnitude earthquake that has hit Albania. I am keeping those affected in my prayers and standing with those who have family in Albania. I want to tell Councilmember Jonai I am sending my thoughts to him and his community. Last week, New York also lost Al Smith IV. As Politico wisely pointed out, for Al Smith IV, laughter was the best politics. He truly understood the power of a solid mocking to make sure we all don't take ourselves too seriously. It's easy to forget that in a politically divisive time, we sometimes all need to take a step back and have a little humor. That's what happens at the annual Al Smith dinner, where he served as Grand Marshal, and New York will miss him. We lost another important New Yorker this week. Marilyn Saviola, a champion for disability rights, died on November 23rd. Among her many honors, she was an inaugural inductee at the New York State Disability Rights Hall of Fame. She helped expand access to health care for people with disabilities and is remembered for her compassionate, razor-sharp intelligence and wit. And I got to work with her when I chaired the Health Committee. She was an amazing, amazing woman. I'd also like to note that this month is International Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. It is a really devastating form of cancer, and our hearts are with anyone who is struggling with this terrible disease. And last but not least, a happy Thanksgiving to all who will be celebrating. Thanksgiving is a time not just to only give thanks, but to give back. And I encourage everyone to do what they can to make someone else's Thanksgiving as warm as possible. Now let's dive into the legislative agenda. We'll be voting on the following land use item: 6003 8th Avenue rezoning in Councilmember Carlos Menchaca's district, a zoning map amendment to bring an existing 3-story commercial building into conformance. Out of the Finance Committee, the council will vote on 8 Article 11 property tax exemption, and they will be in Councilmember Ayala, Perkins, Cabrera, and Salamanca's districts. Collectively, these exemptions will preserve the affordability of just over 1,000 units of housing. Moving on, the council will be voting on the following pieces of legislation. First, we'll have a piece out of the Housing and Buildings Committee by our Housing and Buildings Committee Chair, Councilmember Robert Cornegy. Introduction number 1661A would require permit holders to make information about site safety training requirements available to each worker during site safety orientations and periodic site safety refreshers. This information would need to be available in each of the designated citywide languages and any other languages required by the Department of Buildings. This bill also contains a technical amendment to introduction number 720, which the council passed recently, and I want to thank Austin Branford from the staff for his work on this bill. Next, the council will be voting on a bill to ban the sale of flavored e-cigarettes. I am very proud that we're voting on this. We have seen a significant amount of reluctance on the part of the White House and the FDA to create a ban on these flavors, and the governor's executive order is currently being challenged in court. New York cannot and will not wait. And introduction 1362A, sponsored by our Health Committee Chair, Mark Levine, would ban the sale of flavored e-cigarettes and flavored e-liquids in New York City, including mint, menthol, and wintergreen e-cigarettes and e-liquids. The legislation would also create a presumption that an electronic cigarette retail dealer in possession of 6 or more flavored e-cigarettes or more than 12 fluid ounces of e-liquids has the intent to sell or offer for sale. This bill would also require the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to conduct a public information and awareness campaign to educate the public regarding the availability of smoking cessation services, and this ban would go into effect on the day of the month next succeeding the 180th day after it becomes law. And I want to congratulate Councilmember Levine, who has done an incredible job working on this issue for over a year, understanding the significant consequences that children in New York City face by being marketed to and eventually addicted to e-cigarettes and to vaping. I am grateful for his leadership. Today is a big day for him and for New York City, and I want to congratulate him. I want to thank the staff, Zay Emanuel Halu, Sarah Liss, and Emily Balkin for working on this incredibly important bill. And Madam Majority Leader, I want to mention that if Councilmember Levine wants extended time to speak on this bill, I'm happy at the end of speaker time to give him time out of my clock so that he can speak without the 2 minutes on him. Next, finally, the council will be voting on a package of legislation that cracks down on placard abuse throughout our city. We've talked a lot about how to fix our streets lately, but even good design doesn't work if people simply don't follow the law. Neighborhoods across the city are plagued with cars that park with impunity, blocking sidewalks and bike lanes in front of hydrants, double parking. Some are abusing their city-issued placard. Others try to get away with it by putting a vest or a notebook with a city logo on their dashboard, hoping that traffic agents look the other way. Placard abuse is corruption, and no driver has the right to take away space from pedestrians, cyclists, and bus riders. We've tolerated it for years as one of those unchangeable facts of life in New York City, but we hope with this package of bills, those days are over. First, introduction number 942A, sponsored by Councilmember Peter Koo, would require the city to develop a comprehensive citywide plan for the distribution and use of city-issued parking permits. Next, introduction number 932A, sponsored by Councilmember Margaret Chin, would require city-issued parking permits to be revoked from individuals who abuse their permits or fail to pay parking tickets. Next, introduction number 314A, sponsored by Councilmember Adonis Rodriguez, would require the police department to issue periodic reports on the number of summonses issued in connection with the improper use of city-issued parking permits. Next, introduction 1422A, sponsored by Councilmember Keith Powers, would create a standardized application process for city-issued parking permits. We also have a bill that's sponsored by the Public Advocate. Introduction 596B by Public Advocate Williams would increase the existing fine for unauthorized or fraudulent city-issued parking permits from $250 to $500. And finally, I've sponsored several pieces of legislation that get to the root cause of this issue. Councilmembers Chin and Torres are co-prime sponsors on these first three bills. Introduction 1393A would require the police department to evaluate at least 50 sites a week for a period of 6 months for illegal parking. The sites would be selected based on a review of complaints and summonses related to the misuse of parking permits and obstruction of a bicycle lane, bus lane, sidewalk, crosswalk, or fire hydrant by a vehicle, as well as traffic crashes and moving violations. NYPD would be required to document their enforcement efforts with photographs, and this work would be reviewed by the Department of Investigation as part of a new investigation into the issuance of parking permits and enforcement of parking laws. Next is introduction 1394A, which would prohibit official city vehicles from blocking a bike lane, bus lane, crosswalk, sidewalk, fire hydrant, and making it the city's official policy. And introduction number 1395A would require 311 to accept complaints and photographs related to illegal parking and the misuse of parking permits. Currently, 311 only offers limited ability to specify the type of illegal parking, does not accept photographs for any parking complaints, and does not allow you to specify that a vehicle is an official city vehicle. And finally, the last bill, introduction 927A, would require the police department to create a centralized electronic tracking system for all city-issued parking permits. The system would record all summonses issued and would allow the police department to verify in real time the validity of those permits. I want to thank the staff who worked hard on this package of bills: James DiGiovanni, Emily Rooney, Rick Arbello, and Elliot Lynn. And before I turn it back to you, Madam Majority Leader, if Councilmember Levine wants to have extended time to speak on his bill, I'm happy to yield some time to him.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for your leadership on this issue and for ensuring that this bill, 1362, is coming up for a vote today. The slow pace at which this country has responded to the teen vaping epidemic has been an epic failure. We did nothing as these sleek new devices with an intense dose of nicotine started to hit the market, or as shelves started to fill up with every fruity, minty, candy-ish flavor you can think of, flavors that are clearly appealing to kids. We did nothing when Juul and other companies started to market their products on social media with stylish young people promoting Juuling as a cool lifestyle choice. We did nothing when Big Tobacco started to pump billions into the vaping industry. We did nothing when middle schoolers started to report that they are refusing to go to the bathrooms in their schools because they know they'll be filled with peers who are vaping. As a result of our inaction, today there are 5 million teens in this country who are now vaping. In New York City, as elsewhere, the estimate is that 1 in 4 high schoolers and 1 in 10 middle schoolers have vaped in the past year. These are children who now face a potentially lifelong battle against nicotine addiction. This failure has been national, with no more grotesque example than that of the Trump administration, which, after grand promises about intervening to contain this epidemic, did a complete 180 last week in the face of intense pressure from tobacco industry lobbyists. Well, New York City has not given in to that pressure. We are acting to protect our kids by banning the e-cigarette flavors that have been hooking them for years. Now, I want to acknowledge that we have listened intently to adults who have told us that e-cigarettes have enabled them to quit smoking. And that's in part why we will continue to allow the sale of vaping devices and tobacco-flavored liquids. But make no mistake, we have no higher obligation than protecting the health of kids. And while only 3% of adults vape, as I mentioned, fully 1 in 4 high schoolers and 1 in 10 middle schoolers are vaping. This is predominantly a crisis of young people, and I am so proud that today we are acting as a city to protect their health. This legislation is the result of more than a year of intense work by the brilliant staff of the Council's Health Committee, including Zay Emanuel Hailu, Sarah Liss, Emily Balkin, Lauren Hunt, and my own staff, Amy Slattery, Wynne Roosevelt, and Aya Keefe. And I want to acknowledge the incredible coalition of advocates that push for this bill, activists for public health, advocates for kids, and I especially want to call out Meredith Berkman and the incredible moms of PAVE. Thank you to my colleagues, 30 of you who are co-sponsoring this bill, and I urge you all to vote in support of this measure. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mark. And with that, Madam Majority Leader, happy Thanksgiving to you and Prince, and I turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Speaker Cory Johnson. We will now move into discussion of general orders. We have Council Members Chin, Koo, followed by Cornegie.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. I'm proud to join Speaker Johnson and my colleagues today to say placard permits are a privilege, not a right. Yet we hear horror stories about people who constantly abuse this right and make streets unsafe, especially in my district, in already congested communities in Lower Manhattan, like Battery Park City and Chinatown. As a result, residents feel disrespected by the government employee who should be prioritizing their safety and rights. This is corruption in plain sight and should be stopped in its tracks. Without strong enforcement measure to hold offenders accountable, this abuse will only continue to weaken trust in our democracy. My legislation, Intro 932A, will put a 3-strike rule on the books that lead to the immediate and permanent revocation of a placard. I'm proud to join Speaker Johnson, Public Advocate Williams, and Councilmember Koo and Power on a package of bill to urge all placard holders to follow the rules by increasing fines, making it easier for constituents to report an instance of abuse, and bringing order to this chaotic system. Of course, we can't do this without the hard work of the council staff. I want to specifically thank James D. Giovanni, Emily Rooney, Kelly Taylor, and my legislative director, Marian Guerra. And I urge my colleagues to support the package of bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Councilmember Koo.
Thank you, Majority Leader Campbell. And thank you to our speaker. Placard abuse is a growing problem on our city streets, in which many now believe their placards are a right that they are entitled to, rather than a privilege to be used under very specific conditions. Parker appeals not only clogs our streets with illegally parked vehicles, it also creates resentment and distrust of those authorities allowed to use the parkers. My bill, Intro 942A, this legislation looks to develop a comprehensive plan regarding the distributions and use of city-issued parking permits. Importantly, this bill will also publish this plan so that we can bring more transparency and accountability to the parker system. We want to curb the parker abuse, give our streets back to the public, and restore the public trust in those who actually need parkers to serve the city of New York. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cornegy.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader and Councilmember Deutsch. I'm looking forward to passing an important construction safety bill today that I encourage my colleagues to vote yes on. My bill, Intro 1661A, addresses ongoing concerns that the diverse construction workforce of our city is not adequately informed about site safety training requirements mandated by Local Law 196 of 2017. New York City is the most diverse city on the face of the planet and continues to be built by people from all over the world. In an effort to enhance and bolster construction site safety for both workers and the public, we should ensure that permit holders make information about site safety training requirements available, and that the information is available in each of the designated citywide languages and any other languages required by the Department of Buildings. As the construction boom continues, we must take every step to maximize safety. I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of the Department of Buildings and Commissioner Melanie LaRocca for her laser focus on improving construction safety that have been a great partner in this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cornegy. We will now move into, hold on one moment. We'll now move into report of special committees, excuse me. Reports of standing committees.
Report of the Committee on Finance, preconsidered LU 582 and Reso 1174 through LU 589 and Reso 1181, tax exemptions.
Coupled to general orders.
Report of the Committee on Health, Intro 1362A, e-cigarettes.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Housing and Buildings, Intro 1661A, site safety training.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Land Use, LU 561 and 562, Fleet Place rezoning.
Approved with modifications and referred to the City Planning Commission pursuant to Section 197D of the New York City Charter.
LU 576 and Reso 1182, 8th Avenue rezoning.
Coupled to general orders.
Report of the Committee on Transportation, Intro 314A through Intro 1422A on page 5, parking permits.
Amended and coupled to general orders.
On the general order calendar, resolution appointing various persons, Commissioner of Deeds.
Coupled to general orders, and at this time, I'm asking for a roll call vote on all of the items on today's general order calendar.
Eugene.
Thank you. I request permission to vote on all the land use call-up and also all the item on the general order calendar with this, and I vote aye and all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adams.
I'd like to say greetings to all of our Seeds of Fortune Career Fellows Program students who are visiting with us today, especially my shadow, Chelsea Duget, a sophomore from Babson College in Massachusetts. I proudly vote aye at all and congratulate my colleagues on such brilliant legislation.
Ayala.
I vote aye.
Brannon.
Aye.
Cabrera.
Aye, and I congratulate all my colleagues on their excellent bills.
Chin.
I also wanted to congratulate all my colleagues on important legislation, and especially to Councilmember Levine on helping our youth stop smoking. And I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I vote aye on all.
Cornegy. Deutsch.
No on 1394, aye in the rest.
Cornegie.
4 aye on all the rest.
Drum.
Aye.
Espinal.
Aye on all.
Gibson.
Madam Majority Leader, with your permission, I'd like to vote aye on all land use call-ups and general order calendar items, and wish all of my colleagues and staff a wonderful and blessed happy Thanksgiving.
Permission granted.
Thank you. I vote aye.
Thank you.
Jonai.
Aye on all.
Grodenchik.
Aye.
Holden.
Aye on all.
Kalos.
Aye on all.
Koo.
Aye on all, and also I want to wish all my colleagues a happy and healthy Thanksgiving.
Kozlowitz.
I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I vote aye on all.
Lanceman. Lander. Levine.
Aye on all.
Lewis.
Aye on all, and I also want to send greetings to my Seeds of Fortune intern, Chris Ann. Thank you for your time with us today, and also want to congratulate all my colleagues on some great legislation today.
Mizell. Menchaca.
Aye on all.
Moya.
Aye.
Perkins.
Aye on all. Thank you.
Powers.
Aye on all.
Reynoso.
Aye on all.
Richards.
Aye on all.
Rivera.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye on all, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Rodriguez. Rosenthal.
With congratulations to my colleague, Councilmember Levine, I vote aye on all, and of course, thank you to the Speaker on all of this.
Torres.
Aye on all.
Traeger.
Aye.
Ulrich.
No on 1394, aye on all others.
Vallone.
Happy Thanksgiving, and aye on all.
Van Bramer.
Aye on all.
Yeager.
Madam President, may I be excused to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
Thank you very much. Smoking is an addiction, and addiction is disease, as so many here know, and as I know, and as those who know me know I know. We should regulate harshly the ability of children to access the products being banned by Intro 1362. But we should also not remove from available tools a demonstrable smoking cessation product. This council practically has legalized the possession and use of the narcotic known as marijuana. We've done it repeatedly. We keep doing it. If ever there is a product that we ought to ban, it's not the e-cig, the vaping product that people are using in this city to stop smoking. So with that, Madam President, I vote no on Intro 1362. I also vote no on Intro 1394, and I vote aye on all the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Quiet in the chamber.
Mario.
No on 1394 and no on 1362. Aye on the rest.
Cumbo.
I vote aye on all.
Speaker Johnson.
Thank you. All items on today's general order calendar are adopted by a vote of 44 in the affirmative, 0 negative, and 0 abstentions. With the exception of Intro 1394A, which was adopted by a vote of 39 in the affirmative, 5 negative, and 0 abstentions. Intro 1362A, which was adopted by a vote of 42 affirmative, 2 negative, and 0 abstentions. The revised land use call-up vote is 44 affirmative and 0 negative. We will now have introduction and reading of bills.
All bills have been referred to. The sergeants, if you could...
Quiet in the chamber.
If you could clear the balcony. If the sergeants could clear the balcony.
Please clear the balcony at this time. Please clear the balcony at this time. The throwing of items is a danger to the entire council. Throwing things over the balcony cannot be accepted in this chamber.
Madam Majority Leader, if we could continue. Shh. We're going to continue, and we're almost done. If folks could retake their seats. If members could sit down, we're almost done. Where are the sergeants? Raphael.
We are going to continue with today's stated meeting. Quiet in the chamber, please.
Kalman, Keith, if folks could just quiet down, we're almost done.
Thank you. We apologize for the interruption. Thank you for remaining calm and staying with us. I would say it's democracy in action. However, throwing things at members over the balcony is never considered democracy in action. So we are going to continue with the introduction and reading of bills.
All bills are referred to committees as indicated on today's agenda.
Thank you. There aren't any resolutions on today's calendar, so we will now move into general discussion. We will begin with Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. The person that I needed to hear this was just escorted out with the balcony, unfortunately, my constituent. Hopefully he's somewhere within listening distance because this bill is for him. The number of fires across the city over the past few years inspired my constituent, who's somewhere in the hallway. His name is Earl Roberts. I would love for him to hear this. It inspired my constituent, Earl Roberts, a resident of Rochdale Village and member of Community Board 12 Queens, to share with me his thoughts regarding safety in multiple dwellings across the city of New York as it pertains to multiple dwellings and shelters. My bill, Intro 1802, once again inspired by my constituent, Earl Roberts, will provide safety in evacuation. Oh, there he is. He just walked in the chambers. There is Earl Roberts, who I am speaking about. Earl, I am sharing with this body your inspiration to me to introduce legislation regarding safety in multiple dwellings and shelters across the city of New York, Intro 1802, once again inspired by my constituent Earl Roberts, who just walked in. As I said, he is a resident of Rochdale Village and member of Community Board 12 Queens. This is a local law that will require that safety notices, fire safety notices, be posted in all multiple dwellings and shelters across the city of New York, similarly to the notices posted in hotels for the provision of safety evacuation, notification, and information to all who live on said premises. So I'd like to thank Earl Roberts publicly for caring enough about his community, caring enough about the city, to give me one idea to promote legislation in the city of New York. Happy Thanksgiving to all of my colleagues, and I encourage you to sign on to 1802. Thank you, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll now hear from Councilmember Menchaca, followed by Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Majority Leader. And I want to let everyone know that we are also looking at intro for Resolution 1173. I'm proud to introduce this resolution because New York City supports immigrant women who are seeking refuge in our nation and on the nation's shores. We support the legal fight to stop the Trump administration from stripping protections from our asylum laws. This is why this resolution will be introduced and hopefully voted out as soon as possible. This really calls to mind the support of the amicus brief submitted by 20 states, including New York, calling on D.C. Circuit to maintain the availability of asylum-related protections for women and families with a well-founded fear of persecution due to domestic or gang-related violence. And as we prepare for the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, let us remember our immigrant neighbors who are fleeing such violence and seeking asylum in our city. We must not allow the Trump administration to succeed in dehumanizing immigrants out of existence by making the laughable claim that immigrants fleeing gender-based violence are not eligible for asylum. And there's one story that I want to start sharing with you, and we'll talk more about it over the next few weeks. But Grace, who's an indigenous woman from a small village in Guatemala, came to the United States seeking protection from beatings, sexual assault, and death threats. And Grace made the long and treacherous journey from Central America, arriving at the border in June. She was deeply traumatized, having been raped and beaten and threatened with death for more than 2 decades at the hands of her abusive partner. these are the kind of stories that we're talking about. These are the stories that will lift up, that we'll be lifting up as we pass and review this resolution, and hoping that this becomes a victory in our long saga against the federal administration. Thank you so much for your time, colleagues.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez, and then we will close today's stated meeting.
I would like to invite all our colleagues to please sign in the two bills. One led my colleague, Councilmember Rivera and myself, Intro 18-2012, and the other Intro 18-13 by myself and Rivera. Those two bills will create the Department of Pedestrians and Cyclists. We feel that as we have the great speaker here, taking a lot of steps to make our city more pedestrian and cyclist friendly, having a vision of how we can do better in transportation. As we have any other department, the Department of Cultural Affairs, Immigrants Affairs, SBS, at the time when we have 8.6 million New Yorkers and 7 million of those rely on train, buses, bicycle, and ferry, we need to put together a department that work around policy, strategy, and initiative to centralize anything that we need to do to make the city the most walkable one in the whole nation. Hoy estamos aquí presentando dos proyectos de ley junto con la concejal Carolina Rivera y mi persona para crearse el departamento de peatones y ciclistas que busca hacer de la ciudad de Nueva York la ciudad donde los peatones, ciclistas y todo estén seguros cuando caminan por la calle. Un departamento que estará trabajando con iniciativas, fondos para nosotros asegurarnos de que la ciudad sea asequible para todos. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will end with Councilmember Cornegy.
I think Councilmember Cornegy is giving us all a Thanksgiving gift and waiving his time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Cornegy. And with that, we will turn it over to Speaker Cory Johnson to close out today's meeting.
The stated meeting of November 26, 2019 is hereby gratefully adjourned. Thank you.